Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé my stepdaughter isn't mine? Sort it yourself? Original post. I'm a 27-year-old man and my fiancé is 30. We've been together for nearly 4 years. I have a 6-year-old son and she has an 11-year-old daughter from previous relationships. Up until now, we've never had any issues regarding the children. Yesterday, her daughter was set to go on a camping trip for a friend's birthday where they'd be doing activities like kayaking. My fiancé dressed her in a dress, and I mentioned to her that it didn't seem like the right choice for the occasion. She seemed offended and said her daughter could wear whatever she liked and that it wasn't a man's place to judge. I tried to clarify what I meant, but she cut me off, saying, "She's my daughter, not yours." I took my son to a pre-planned match when my fiancé rang me. It turned out the birthday girl's mom had told her daughter she couldn't go in a dress and needed to wear a tracksuit or something similar, so they didn't let her on the bus. My fiancé then asked if I could leave the match early to drive her daughter to the activity center. I replied, "Why should I? She's not my daughter and I'm here with my son." Neither of us are talking now. I do pity my stepdaughter and I wasn't being spiteful. My son was looking forward to it and it would be about 4 hours of travel. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Who sends a girl kayaking in a dress? Someone who's clearly never been kayaking. I've never been kayaking either, but common sense still tells me that a child in a dress is wildly inappropriate for the activity. Not the a-hole. Lol, you try to help her and she told you to butt out. Make sure to get an apology. Yeah, I'd say I'll be waiting for an apology. Dollars to donuts, you'll be waiting for a while. I'm gonna say this just in case. While waiting, be sure to spend time with your stepdaughter. Don't let her get caught in the middle between you and her mom butting heads. Regardless of who's the a-hole, she doesn't need this. Yeah, I'm taking her and my son to the camp next weekend instead. We won't do the camping part, but we'll do the activities. That's of course if I'm allowed to take her. My fiancé is obviously invited too, but only if she wears a dress. I'm joking. Not the a-hole. She can't be a snarky person and still expect you to help. She made her choice and choices have consequences. This relationship isn't lasting much longer. Lol. And good, she sounds like a red flag. Yeah, I didn't want to sound like a drama queen, but I'm very surprised what she said and questioning some stuff. I see my stepdaughter as my daughter and would have expected the same with her and my son. I'm not saying I don't have a favorite child, but I love them both. Edit? From what I gather, I was a bit of an a-hole, and she was a bigger a-hole, so I'm going to try and talk it out and see what we both want. Now for the update. I had a conversation with my fiancé, and she asked why would I say something hurtful. I replied that I was just repeating what she said to me earlier. Then she asked if I loved her daughter, and I said I did. She asked if it was as much as I loved my son, and I responded, almost as much. She got cranky, so I asked her if she loved my son. She said no. I asked if she loved me, and her answer was, sort of. She started crying, woke up her daughter, and told her they had to leave, though I hadn't told them to go. I said we could talk about it tomorrow, but she insisted, saying he doesn't want us anymore. I told her that I never said that. Her daughter began crying and didn't want to leave, but her mother said, "Don't make me leave on my own. He doesn't want you." I reassured them both that they were welcome to stay. My fiancé decided to leave without her daughter, and now she's not answering. When I spoke to my fiancé's daughter's father, he just laughed and said she couldn't even hold off on a crazy until after the wedding. That poor 11-year-old girl. This won't be the last time she has her life uprooted by her unstable mother. That poor girl deserves stability, not drama. I hope she finds a way to cope with all of this chaos. And you never noticed anything beforehand leading up to you proposing to this person that she's an absolute nut job? What's the go, OP? I genuinely didn't. My son loves her. Some people pointed out her picking her daughter's clothes was weird, but I never really thought about it. I had a mother like that, a similar level of crazy. Mine did some wild stuff. Best you can do is assure the girl you'll be there for her no matter what. Chances are you love that girl more than her mother does. That was my experience. My stepdad cares more about me than my mother does. Bio dad is dead, so not much choice with him. They're getting a divorce now that I'm an adult, and he's keeping me in the divorce. I'm glad you had him at least, and sorry about your bio dad. She's always welcome at mine. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend Thanksgiving dinner because my wife keeps hiding with her parents over me? My wife and I have been married for 5 years, and while I love her deeply, there's an issue that's causing a lot of strain in our relationship. Her parents are very involved in our lives, and they tend to voice their opinions on everything, from how we spend our money to how we should be raising our kids. We have two. I'm not close with my own family, so I always hoped my in-laws would feel like family to me. Instead, it feels like they criticize every decision I make, and my wife doesn't defend me. Whenever they make a comment about my job or our parenting choices, she just sits there or, worse, agrees with them. Last week, her dad made a dig about my job, saying something like, "If you worked harder, maybe you could afford a better home for the kids." My wife just laughed it off, and I felt humiliated. I later told her how much that hurt, but she brushed it off, saying that's just how they are. I told her I don't want to attend Thanksgiving at her place if I'm going to be treated this way, but she says I'm overreacting and making things difficult for her. Am I in the wrong for wanting to skip Thanksgiving if it means avoiding more of their disrespect, especially when my wife won't back me up? Dude, if you don't stand your ground now, later will be too late. Let's face it, there are expectations from you, and unless you are respected even if you provide everything later, it can be called as not man enough. Thanks, I think you're right. It's about setting boundaries now before things get worse. I need to make sure I'm respected in my own family. 100% not the a-hole. If my father-in-law insulted me at my job to my face in front of my wife and she laughed about it, I'd say there are several a-holes here and none of them is you. At best, he's an insensitive jerk. At worst, he's a grade a-hole. What kind of man behaves that way? She's behaving really badly for not defending you in front of him. Not going to Thanksgiving? Heck, I would not only never go to their house again, I would forbid them from entering mine. And you need to consider if your wife really has your best interests at heart. That's exactly how I feel. It's one thing to be criticized, but it's worse when my wife doesn't back me up. I really need to figure out where her loyalty lies. Your wife is the #1 problem here. If she's not in your side, who is? This is her family. She should be dealing with them on this. Instead, she's dismissing you. Exactly. It hurts that she won't stand up for me. Next story. Am I in the wrong for telling my ex-husband that our kids are justified in feeling like they don't have a father? I'm 33 and have 2 kids, 12 and 8. I divorced their dad when I discovered he was cheating on me with a mom from our younger son's school group. Despite that betrayal, I agreed to shared custody because I wanted my kids to grow up with their father in their lives. However, since the divorce, he's only been around when he's picking them up for visits. He often goes out with his stepchildren, but rarely includes our kids, claiming those outings are spur of the moment and can't always include them. Eventually, I stopped pushing, but I've always thought it was unfair that he keeps his distance from our children's lives. Recently, I decided to upgrade my older son's computer, and he asked if we could give his old one to his cousin, my brother's son. My brother has been a huge support for my kids. He's always available to take them to their school events when I can't, and often takes them out to the park or on trips when I'm busy. My ex, on the other hand, is rarely available for them. Anytime I ask him to help with an activity, he has an excuse. He's out of town or swamped with work. Ironically though, whenever his stepkids need something, he's there. Once he even argued with his stepkid's father at a school event, insisting he had a right to be there. When my ex found out I gave the computer to my nephew, he got upset. He complained that if I had money to spare on a gift like that, I should have forgiven 2 months of child support he'd missed, since his finances were tight with a new baby. He added that if I could give away a computer, I should have gifted it to either his kids or his stepkids, who shared just 1 computer among the 3 of them. I told him my finances were none of his business, and that I owed nothing to his stepchildren. Then his wife jumped into the conversation, accusing me of spoiling my son by giving him a new computer and of being petty for letting my son bring it to their house, claiming it was just to show off in front of his step-siblings. I told her she had no right to speak to me that way or question my decisions. I added that I allow my kids to see their father so they can grow up with him in their lives, not so she can interfere with how I parent. My ex was offended, but I told him this whole situation could have been avoided if his wife hadn't inserted herself where she doesn't belong. After that, things seemed to calm down until last week. I went to pick up the kids, and my ex was visibly upset. He explained that he'd tried reading a bedtime story to our youngest. At home, he still likes to be read to before bed, usually by me, his brother or my brother. And when none of us are around, he listens to audiobooks. Apparently, my ex wanted to make an effort to connect, so he offered to read to him, but our son turned him down, saying he didn't need him for that because he could do it himself. My ex stayed to listen as he searched for a story for 8-year-olds without a dad on his tablet, and it hit him hard. The next day, my ex offered to take our older son to basketball practice, but he replied that he'd be going with his dad. He quickly corrected himself and said, "Uncle." That made my ex even angrier, and when I came to pick up the kids, he confronted me about it. I told him that if our kids feel like they don't have a father, he has only himself to blame. He tried to shift the blame onto me, saying I was the one pushing him away from his role. I told him it's up to him to show up for his kids. It's not something I can do for him. I reminded him he was the one who broke our family and is chosen to be more involved with his stepkids than with his own children. I told him not to kid himself. The kids are growing up, and they're starting to see the reality of who he is as a father. If he keeps this up, he can't expect much from them in the future. After that exchange, his mom called me. While she's always been polite to me, I felt the need to say that I would have appreciated the same concern from her when she supported her son's affair, knowing her grandchildren were losing their father in the process. She hung up, and we haven't spoken since. My brother advised me that I had every right to express how I feel, but he suggested that maybe this discussion shouldn't have happened in front of the kids. Later, my ex texted me saying that if I weren't so difficult, he'd spend more time with them. I told him his duty as a father doesn't depend on whether I'm easy or not, and he knows I've never prevented him from seeing the kids. The truth is, when he has to choose, he prefers outings with his stepkids over his own children, and that's something only he can change. Now for the top comments. You can only do so much, OP, and don't let him off the hook for any child support. The fact that it's stretching his budget is a him problem, not a you problem. And I agree with your brother that that conversation should have not happened in front of the kids. But if I understand correctly, your ex chose the time and place, not giving you much choice in the matter. Not the a-hole. I love how if she had extra money, she should forgive child support. But him already knowing money was tight wasn't a reason to not have another kid. My ex stayed to listen as he searched for a story for 8-year-olds without a dad on his tablet. Your kid is ruthless. Good for him. Not the a-hole. 8-year-olds can be ruthless. They seriously don't hold back. They understand so much more at that age. Last story. Am I the a-hole for returning my stepson's belongings to his mother's house? I, 35 female, have known my fiancé, 41 female, for 7 years. We have 2 ours children, 4 male and 1 female. And my fiancé has a son, 10 male, from his previous marriage. I met his son, whom I call my stepson even though we are not technically married, when he was 4. Since I've been around, my fiancé and his ex have used a simple strategy to send my stepson's belongings back and forth between the 2 houses. The fiancé used to pack a backpack with anything that his son needed for the next few days, school supplies, sports gear, clothing, and drop it off with his son at school. His ex would pick up their son, keep anything that belonged at her house, and return anything that belonged to us on the next drop-off day. Easy. Over the years, my stepson's mother has sent disparaging texts accusing us of keeping the clothing she buys for him at our house for too long. She says he never has enough clothes there and wants us to send everything back as soon as possible, even if it's not clean yet. My fiancé has refused to acknowledge her request, so usually the task falls on my shoulders. I wash laundry religiously and make sure to pack and label a bag with all of the clothing she has requested, placing it in my stepson's backpack. I usually ask my stepson to make sure he takes the clothing out of his backpack when he returns to his mother's house because she forgets to check his backpack. Today, both my stepson and my 4-year-old had basketball practice at the YMCA. My stepson was scheduled to be with his mother for the weekend, but on Saturdays she always bring him up to the Y for a few hours so he can play, and then he goes back to her place. On our way out, I grabbed a jacket my stepson had left behind. It belonged to his mother's house. Since we were going to see him, I thought it would be easier to return it now. I also figured he would show up to the gym without a coat on a cold day, as his mother rarely dresses him appropriately for the weather. When we, fiancé, me, our 2 kids, got into the car, my fiancé saw me holding the jacket and lost it on me. He tore into me about how I was immature, petty, and rude for sending all of his son's clothing away from our house. He said I have been doing it for years, because I hate to see anything at our house that my stepson's mother has bought. He said I was making our stepson feel like he wasn't welcome in our home, and that it was an unfair burden for a 10-year-old to have to make sure all of his belongings are returned to their prospective houses several times per week. I actually agree with that last point. I've been saying for years this schlepping feels unfair to the boy. I told my fiancé he was the a-hole for blowing up on me in front of our kids. I told him that if I was the a-hole, then he and his ex were too, because I was just following a system they started. I told him it was way too easy for him to see me in a negative light instead of becoming curious about why I was so adamant about returning his son's belongings quickly. I also told him that he was now solely responsible for managing his son's belongings because I didn't need the drama tied to it. And I didn't need to be unfairly painted as a wicked stepmother. Oh, and my stepson definitely showed up to the Y without a coat. He was cold. He also let us know the coat I grabbed was actually his mother's. She'd let him borrow it, but wanted it back because her new husband had just gifted it to her recently. I'm struggling to see how I'm the a-hole. Am I? Both my fiancé and his ex have called me the a-hole for many reasons since I've been in this relationship. Help, please. I understand why she divorced him. He sucks. He's negligent, abandons his responsibilities, and when you angelically try to pick up the slack, he berates you with an ungodly temper. Not the a-hole. My ex-sister-in-law would send the kids to their dad without any appropriate clothes, so we were always buying them new clothes. But she had terrorized them about their things that would freak out if my brother tried to keep any of them at his house. He was paying a lot of child support and alimony, so she was not scraping by. She was just being vindictive. Update. Am I the a-hole for canceling a trip because my fiancé's ex and her baby are coming? Original post. I, female 32, have been with Kyle, male 37, for 2.5 years. We got engaged 6 months ago. Kyle has been divorced for over 5 years now. He was married to Elena, female 37. They have a son, Grayson, male 8. Elena has a toddler from a guy she met after her divorce and dated briefly. Ella, female 2.5. Grayson is a wonderful little kid. He has his room in our house and he is so loved by all of us. Kyle and Elena are good friends and co-parenting great. The problem I have is she is everywhere. Beside holidays and birthdays, which I understand, Christmas, Grayson's birthday, Thanksgiving, Elena and her baby are pretty much invited to any family functions, such as Kyle's birthday, Kyle's parents' anniversary, my birthday. Yes, Kyle invited her to my birthday, even our camping trips. I've talked to Kyle many times, but he thinks I'm being insecure for no reason and making a big deal about nothing. I booked a trip to Mexico for January for me, Kyle, and Grayson. Then, Kyle told Elena that on the last week of January, we will have Grayson for extra weeks since he is coming with us to Mexico. Apparently, Elena managed to ask him about our trip dates. Details. As on Facebook, she was posting about swimsuit shopping for upcoming trip. Kyle texted her and asked her if she is going somewhere that week too. She said she researched our hotel and I took advantage of the same deal as you guys. So I guess we will see you there. Haha. I told Kyle then we are canceling the trip. And he said he can't, because tickets are non-refundable. I told him that I'm not going. I want for once have a family vacation without his ex-wife. I want a family vacation without his ex-wife, but Kyle thinks there's nothing we can do now. We need to address this for future plans and be more clear about boundaries. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Why are you with this guy again? I know it can't be because he's that good in bed. No way in hell. Or maybe he is, and that's why his ex is still into him. He's got her hypnotized too. You don't have kids with Mr. Have My Cake and Eat It Too. You can walk away. I would strongly suggest doing so. Because they're not just co-parenting. He's banging her. OMG, I laughed really hard at the first part. No, he is not. Lol. He is okay, but not great. Overall, he is a very kind and loving man. He just can't say no, and his ex walks all over him. No, I don't have kids, and I'm seriously thinking about ending this before it's too late. Because I'm nosy, why did they get divorced? If it's kid-related stuff, fine. But the rest? Is he actually inviting her, or is she inviting herself and he doesn't like saying no? Don't marry him unless he starts having boundaries with her, or this will be the rest of your life. Not the a-hole. They got divorced because, as Elena said, they became roommates, even sleeping separately for years. They went for counseling for a long time, but they both decided it was not working out. Kyle moved out, trial separation, then they got divorced. She met another guy, got pregnant almost right away, then broke up with him when their baby was an infant. Not the a-hole. There's good co-parenting and there's this. It's nice that they're friends, that they and you are great with Grayson. But you not getting any alone time will drive you apart. And Elena's reveling in it. Elena is a single mom and probably wants to get back with Kyle. This isn't right. Your boyfriend is not looking after you properly. He needs to back up, or this will not work for you and Kyle. Kyle basically has 2 wives at this point. Opie needs to put her foot down, and he needs to grow a spine. My husband's ex would show up right after he left for work, at 6 a.m. She would bring me donuts, start cleaning and folding the kids' clothes, asking me my intentions with her ex-husband, since they clearly are still united in effort, blah blah blah. It was bizarre, but the donuts were nice. I could do without her just walking through the door though. Now for the update. First of all, thank you for every single comment. I read all of them. Kyle came home late last night since he was working on a project with his coworker. He saw me awake and got surprised and asked, "Is everything okay?" I said, "We need to talk." I basically told him that either he tells Elena to cancel her trip and establishes boundaries, or we are done. He said, "Oh my god, are you still on this? I'll talk to her for future events. Let it go for Pete's sake." I said, "No, this has been my life since we met. She and her baby are always in my hair. I get upset, you convince me to let it go this time, then it happens again." I reminded him that last June, we hosted Elena's baby's birthday at our backyard and paid for and did everything, and he told me to let it go. Where is the limit? Will she be invited to our wedding and be in a bridal party? Will she be at our honeymoon? Will she be at the delivery room when I give birth? He said, "We are both tired. Why don't we talk tomorrow?" I told him I can't wait until then. "Will you ask Elena to cancel her trip and tell her about my boundaries?" He said, "I can't make her do anything as she's no longer my wife. I can tell her you don't like her and you can't stand her. Happy?" I said, "I don't feel like I'm ever gonna be your wife. She's more your wife than I'll ever be. She just doesn't like to put out, so you got me for that." That's how I feel. I feel so unloved. "If we break up and Elena takes you back, would you get back together with her?" He said, "Stop. You know how much I love you. Why are you saying these nonsense?" I asked again and again. He said, "What do you want me to say? That if I'm single, will I work things out with Elena? I guess." I got my answer. I gave him the ring and said, "I'll leave tomorrow morning." He said, "What? Are you serious? What is going on tonight?" He started saying how we were gonna get married and have babies. He knows I left my previous boyfriend because he didn't want to get married, and he begged me to not leave before the holidays. He suggested staying and starting counseling in January. I told him, I really don't have energy or time for this. He started crying. I was awake all night crying on and off. In the morning, he made me breakfast and hugged me, which was so uncomfortable, and said, "Please don't end it permanently. Let's be in touch and work on our relationship." I told him, "No, I just can't. Sorry." Again, he cried and left for work. I talked to my brother in the morning, and he and his girlfriend will let me stay with them until I find my place. I wrapped the Christmas gifts, for Grace and mostly to him, and left them under the tree so they can open them on Christmas morning. He asked if I'd at least join them for Christmas morning. I said no. As for the tickets, they were on my credit card. I'll call Air Canada today to see if I can transfer them to my brother and his girlfriend. I'm so grateful for letting me stay at their place. Sorry commenting again, but he legit wanted to paint you as the bad guy and say you didn't like her, instead of telling her that she was overstepping. Damn OP. I'm calling it now. He'll get back together with her. Heal yourself from this relationship so you'll never accept crumbs for a relationship. That's what hit me the most. I'm gonna tell her you hate her and cannot stand her, instead of telling her that I'm his future wife and respect her boundaries. Throwing me in front of the bus. Wondering how his ex would react. Lol, I was thinking the same thing. She may be like, "Oh damn, I was just having fun stringing him on a bit and screwing with him, but now that OP has dumped him, he's going to be all up in my business 24/7. She may be getting exactly what she deserves too. Depending on what the ex-wife's motives are here, she may be like, "Dude, you never told me I was crossing a line." If you would have said I was making OP uncomfortable, I would have backed off. I thought you both wanted me there. Are you stupid? You better get her back ASAP, because I don't want you back. Or she may have gotten what she wanted all along, which is her ex-husband back, of course not acknowledging that the same problems that existed before are going to be right back. OMG, I'm so thrilled you nailed this before a wedding or a pregnancy. You were, indeed, just going to be third-wheeling in their prefab world. You deserve better. Go get it. Except Elena doesn't want to be in actual relationship with him. I think she wants the relationship but not the sex. That seems to be what the whole situation is implying. And that if Elena had more sex with him, OP's ex wouldn't have split from his wife. That's what I took from that. Or he was trying to create a sister-wives thing. One is his emotional wife and the other is his bandmate. So thank God OP broke up. No one should stay where they aren't loved. Well, according to OP in comments on her previous post, he isn't very good in bed, and she needs a toy to finish. So that may be why Elena doesn't want the intimacy part. Heck, OP said she was with him because he's a really nice and kind person. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ghosting my girlfriend of 8 years and not giving her money for our trip? So about 2 months ago, me and my girlfriend of 8 years took a trip together to Europe for 2 weeks. It was an amazing vacation and we had an incredible time. But after we returned, she started acting increasingly distant from me. She went to a wedding and had a +1 but didn't invite me or tell me about it until a few days before. Then she ignored my calls while I was away on a business trip and never texted or returned them until after I got back. When she finally picked up, I asked her what happened in a very nonchalant and unaccusatory way, and she didn't give any sort of solid answer. When I pressed her about it, she always gets upset at me if I don't call her back, even if it's just like an hour later. She just screamed at me, "I didn't feel like talking to you. How about I never talk to you again?" And hung up. Tried calling her back, she didn't pick up. Sent her a text a day or two later, no response. At this point, something inside me just kind of broke. Like, we've had fights way bigger than this, and I've always tried to patch it up with her because I was head over heels for her. But this time it was as if the in-love feeling just vanished instantly. I think it was because her reaction was so unprovoked. 3 weeks later, she calls me and I freeze. I don't pick up. She starts sending angry messages telling me I better pick up or else, and accuses me of cheating. I didn't. I don't pick up because I know it's going to be an absolute crap show of a phone call. Another 2 weeks have passed, and I've kind of accepted that the relationship is over. But I feel guilty about not paying her back for the trip. We used her card while traveling abroad because mine has a foreign transaction fee. The trip was expensive, about $20,000 total, $10,000 of which has already been split. Stuff we booked before traveling. Essentially, I owe her roughly $5,000. Before the fight, I had mentioned, at least on 3 occasions, that we should sort out our finances for the trip, and if she wanted, she could send me her credit card statement and I would sort through it myself and then pay her back. However, she kept brushing it off and said we'd do it later. Regardless of how she acted, I'm a person that believes in always paying back what is owed ASAP, and I'm feeling guilty about it. Like, I literally will always Venmo people before they leave my sites. So my question is this: if we never talk again and I never pay her back, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. It's better to close out this chapter so you can start fresh. It also closes the door and doesn't allow her to use that as an excuse to try to get back in touch once her affair partner leaves her. And just find a way so that you don't have to be in direct contact with her for the funds transfer. I agree. You want to walk out of this clean and be done. I would send her a message requesting an itemized total of what you owe with receipts or credit card statements. If she doesn't make your best guess, and if you are feeling petty, send 75%. I think it is best to annihilate the ties that she can use to try to drag you back into contact. But you can probably duck paying her back if you want to. I'll defer the part about paying back the money as that has been addressed. However, I don't get it. 8 years together and then an enjoyable trip, presumably, and then poof, out of nowhere ghosting you? Something is not adding up. Even though suggesting cheating. But when? On the trip? OP, after 8 years, you should know her well enough to suspect what's going on. What do you think happened, if you had to guess? Everyone is jumping to cheating, but I wonder if she's pregnant. Either that or she expected a proposal. Now that I look at that, probably the latter. Especially if she was the one spending all the money on the trip. Edit. Thanks everyone for the input. I did read everyone's comments, but unfortunately I don't have time to reply to all of them. Most people are saying I should pay her back, though a good number are saying not to. I think I'm going to offer to pay her back one last time, via text. So there's a record of it. My previous attempts were just over phone calls. Many people suggested I just give her $5,000, which I think is my fault because I made it seem like it was pretty close to that amount. But in actuality, it might be anywhere between $30,000 to $7,000. And I don't feel comfortable ballparking it in case I overpay or underpay. As I said, thousands of dollars is significant to me, but nothing to her. So I think I'm just going to ask her to send her credit card statement and that we both go over it separately to determine the amount. Also, lots of people said she's upset because I didn't propose on the trip. That isn't it. We've discussed marriage. She wasn't ready, and I had told her that I wouldn't propose again until after she told me she was ready. Last story. I blocked my now ex-girlfriend after finding out she was engaged and didn't tell me. But she's depressed right now. Just want to get this off my chest because this has been a whirlwind. My now ex-girlfriend, female 28, recently distanced herself from me, male 26, due to mental health issues. Of course, I was very concerned about this and tried to stay supportive without pressuring her during a tough time in her life. We slowly stopped talking. The relationship was newer, so I didn't know her friends very well. I decided to find their social media to see if I can stay in contact with them for updates about her well-being. My ex-girlfriend had told me during our 6 months that she doesn't use social media. When I found her friends online, I also found out that my ex does have social media and uses it regularly. To my surprise, I find out she has been engaged to someone since 2019. When checking public records, her fiancé's primary address was listed the same as hers. I was shocked and asked her about these things, despite her mental state. She denied the relationship and said they broke it off in 2020, to which I presented her with a photo of them in 2022. She told me she always lived alone and bought her place out of interest for seeing new areas, not living with a fiancé. She said I was being crazy and said it's none of my business. She told me to leave her alone, and I said gladly, to which she wildly kept on talking. I think she panicked and realized she was losing part of her support system. Part of me is shocked, happy, and relieved to have found the truth and GTFO of there before I get myself into a mess with this person. But part of me feels terrible for leaving her when she's struggling and most likely adding to it. I guess I will never know what the full truth is, or if she was even struggling. Am I a terrible person for doing this? When she's struggling and most likely adding to it. Sounds like she's the one throwing herself in over her head and then expecting others to pull her out. She lied. She got caught. She isn't willing to face the consequences, not the a-hole. I feel awful because I did genuinely want to help her during this time and be there for her. So that part kind of still stings and makes me feel guilty. I'm working on it. That's what her fiancé is for. Lol, valid. I'm happy to let him deal with that mess of a person. She gaslit and lied to you. That's messed up, dude. Isolate and work on yourself and your happiness. She dug her own hole by lying. Did you try to reach out to the fiancé? I did not, but I want to so badly. I feel terrible for the guy and I feel like he should know, but I don't want to create more problems. I would have never started a relationship with her had I known. Not sure how to approach that or if I should. I'd want to know if I was the guy she was about to marry. I'm sure you would too. Provide as much proof as you can and don't bring it up in an attacking way. This is a vulnerable and uncomfortable situation for both you and him. Was it an online-only interaction? I definitely would want to know. You're right. I don't have too much physical evidence. After blocking her and deleting our messages, I don't have much proof left to give, unfortunately. Now for the mini update. Did contact the fiancé. We'll let you know what happens if you respond. Update. Am I the a-hole for buying my daughter a gift when I didn't buy my fiancé's kids one? Original post. My 30-male daughter's 14 female Nintendo Switch completely stopped working earlier this week. She got it the month it was released, March 2017, and has kept it in good condition for over 6 years. Yesterday, she had her conference cross-country meet, where she both PR'd and qualified to run state. To celebrate her new achievements, I took her out to eat, and then bought her a new Nintendo Switch with a game she picked out. My fiancée 38 female came back from her parents earlier today and saw my daughter playing with her Switch. She asked me about it after my daughter left with her boyfriend, and I told her that I wanted to celebrate her accomplishments in her running career, so I got her a new Switch as a gift. Fiancé then got really angry and told me that if I'm going to buy my daughter something, then I have to be fair and buy her own kids something too. 19 female, 16 male, 13 male. I pointed out that I do buy her kids gifts, but they reach goals and achievements too. For example, I bought my stepdaughter an expensive Hello Kitty necklace as a high school graduation gift,
and I let both the boys pick out 2 video games when they both passed their final exams. She told me that it's unfair I spend more on my daughter than I do on her kids, because I make a lot more than her. Fiancé then got angrier and accused me of not liking her kids because of the different financial treatment between her kids and my kid. She left with her 2 sons, but her daughter stayed with me at a house because she's on my side. I got a bunch of texts from her family calling me a selfish a-hole for treating her kids differently when buying gifts. Am I the a-hole? Edit. To answer some common questions because there's a lot of comments and it's hard to get all of them in a timely manner. How does your fiancé treat your daughter? My daughter and fiancé don't interact much. They're polite to each other, but they simply don't talk much, aside from small talk and my daughter asking her some questions about cooking food. I have mentioned to my daughter before that if my fiancé ever were to mistreat her, she needs to tell me, and I will always have her back no matter what. To my knowledge, my fiancé doesn't mistreat her at all. They just don't talk much. Do you have a will or trust fund in place? I have a will set up that gives my daughter everything. My will is safe with a very trusted lawyer friend of mine. I also have a trust in place for my daughter, and she will gain full access to it once she turns 21. Did you have this argument in front of her children? No. She called her kids down and told them what we were arguing about. I told them my side, and her sons took her side and left with her. What is your relationship like with her kids? How are they with your daughter? My relationship with her sons is unfortunately minimal. I try to talk to them about their favorite topics or hobbies, and they either ignore me or shut the conversation down as soon as possible. I don't talk to them much either, other than when they come to me for advice on things like school, friends, etc. My relationship with her older daughter is very good though. I'd like to think we are close. As for my daughter, she doesn't talk to her stepbrothers much, but she's extremely close with her older sister. Hope this clears up some things. Edit 2. To clear up another few common things being mentioned, my fiancé has not always been this way with my daughter and me. She started getting much more defensive when my daughter finished middle school. I am not with my fiancé for sex. My drive is low and so is hers. Her children's father is not in their life and does not pay child support. My daughter's mother is not in her life either. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole and maybe reconsider marriage. Oh good, she's only a fiancé. Phew. You know, depending on how many red flags OP and where you are, that could be construed as hurricane warning, and you should seek safety. Not the a-hole. I wonder if fiancé spends equal amounts on OP's daughter too? Maybe probably not, because she has 3 kids to take care of. Look at post history. She kicked off a week ago after OP bought his daughter running shoes, and saying, why didn't he also spend $300 on her kids as well? I wonder how OP doesn't see these as red flags. Not the a-hole. You're not even married and already this kind of drama has started? Red flag. If she's that particular, she can buy them gifts as well. Or you both could discuss and get all your kids appropriate gifts together. We haven't really discussed financial treatment regarding the kids, but she doesn't buy my daughter anything. I understand that because I make a lot more than her, but I didn't really think anything of her not buying things for my daughter. I'm so sorry to know that. Maybe it's time to have that talk before things get any more serious. It would probably make sense to sign a prenup just in case. She's against signing a prenup because she takes it as me thinking of her as a gold digger, which I don't think she is. We are comfortable staying engaged. She may not be a gold digger, but I am getting definite potential evil stepmother vibes off this. I would definitely get a prenup and have a current will to protect your daughter's interests just in case. Now for the update. I made a post yesterday asking if I was the a-hole because I didn't buy my fiancé's kids gifts when I bought my daughter one. I wanted to thank everyone for the positive feedback and the kind support, as well as the helpful advice I've gotten. A lot of people ask for an update after I have talked to Fiancée, so here you go. She came back at 12 in the morning alone. She said she left the boys at her parents' place because she doesn't, in her words, want them in the presence of a man who won't provide for them. I sat her down and talked to her about a lot of things, and a lot of you are right. This is not the woman I want to marry. When I first brought up how she doesn't bring anything to the table when I pay for everything, she didn't want to talk about it and kept dodging the subject. I brought up how unfair it was of her to expect me to provide for her and her children when she doesn't do anything for my daughter, and the bare minimal for me. She doesn't do house chores, she doesn't pay bills, except her and her daughter's car payments and car insurance, and she spends minimal time with both me and my daughter. Fiancé didn't say anything. Then I talked about the financial and emotional abuse, and she freaked the heck out. She started yelling about how it was my job as the man to provide for her and her kids when I make so much more than her, and they have no father figure. I'm all they had, and she kept bringing that up as an excuse for her behavior towards my money and how I spent it on my daughter. When I asked her about what she expected me to do about my Wheeler prenup, she told me that any good husband would put his wife above everyone else. She had been banking on me giving her everything I had for over a year at this point. I don't like yelling at all, but I was at my breaking point with her at this point. We yelled at each other a lot. It's not my finest moment, and I'm ashamed, but I realized that I let so much happen and my daughter suffered as a result of it. I told her about her neglect towards my child, and I will not tolerate it any longer. She's my #1 priority over everyone else and always will be. I don't think Fiancée believed me when I said that, but I guess she realized I was serious when I told her to start packing. I'm done being an ATM for that lady, and it's crazy to think how strangers on an app made me realize how I was stuck in such a toxic, manipulative, and abusive relationship with her. My now ex-fiancé won't be a problem anymore, I hope. I don't think I'll be with another person for a long time, but thank you to everyone for the support and kindness. Edit. My ex's daughter will be staying with me, and I will financially support her through college, and I will also help her get her own place. Her and I are on good terms, and I want to make sure my ex will not be using her as a token to manipulate me any further. Very happy to read your update. You did the right thing. Choose your daughter every time. Wishing you both all the best. He chose both his daughters. That is outstanding that he kept her daughter too. I'm hijacking your comment because I feel strongly that OP needs to know he is a victim of DV. OP, I work in the DV field. A lot of men are mistreated in various ways, but what we predominantly see is financial and emotional/mental abuse towards men. This is a lot to unravel for you, your child, and ex's daughter. Ex's daughter has probably been through so much as well with this woman as a mother. There is specialized free therapy for victims of DV going through what you are. You can call your state's DV hotline to ask for these referrals. I work in a shelter setting, but my agency also has outpatient, and we are seeing a large increase of males finally speaking up about their experiences. Good luck on your new beginnings. I'm so proud of you. You sound like a great man and father. Wow, OB. Good for you and your daughter. We are proud of you. Make sure she and her kids have no access to your money or credit cards. May have written down account or credit card numbers. Be vigilant. If she does anything illegal, press charges. Change all your locks. Block her and everything, to include all the flying monkeys that try to defend her. Let your daughter know what's going on in case they harass her or try to make you out to be the bad guy. Your daughter will be out of the house before you know it. Spend time with her, making lasting memories for you both. Focus on you and what makes you happy and fulfilled. Take care. Double this one. Get new cards and watch your credit. If necessary, put a hold on your credit so no new credit can be opened in your name this year without your consent, and add a password to your bank, etc. Did she change her tune after you told her to pack? Any apologies? Or did she just leave bitterly? She started crying and begging me to let her stay. No apologies though. I felt bad because she kept saying I was leaving her poor and defenseless, and now she has to stay with her parents. Next story. Am I the a-hole for contesting my ex's life insurance so my daughter got all the money and doesn't split it with her half-siblings? As part of our divorce agreement, my ex was supposed to have $1 million life insurance policy, with our daughter listed as the beneficiary. He was not supposed to make any changes to this policy without my approval. He passed away last year, and I found out that he added his other 2 kids to the policy without even asking me. He didn't even raise the amount of the policy. So it would have meant that our daughter would have gotten 1/3 of the money instead of all of it that she was supposed to get. I immediately went to a lawyer to see what could be done. He was able to get a court to stop the insurance company from paying out until this was dealt with, and it's now been officially settled. All the money put into a trust for my daughter. It has caused a bit of tension with my ex's wife, Emma, the other kid's mother to say the least. I still see her every so often when dropping off or picking up my daughter at my ex-in-laws. They're all very nice people, and fortunately have been there as a buffer so all 3 kids can still have a relationship with each other without Em and I having to be too involved. However, there are still times when I drop off or pick up my daughter when I run into Emma, and every single time I do, she brings up how broke she is. Yesterday, I bumped into her again after we dropped the kids off. I admit it wasn't my finest moment, but as I was heading to my car when she brought up being broke again, I rolled my eyes. That set her off, and she brought up the life insurance money again, and how much of a witch I was to take that money away from her kids. That they deserved the money just as much as my daughter. That they should have gotten an equal share. That is what their father wanted. That they got left with nothing because of me. Thankfully, all the kids were inside while this happened, and I decided to just leave and not engage her, but it's still bothering me. Edit? I know a lot of people are wanting me to give some of the money to her siblings, but I am not in control of my daughter's trust and cannot move the money around. I can only ask for certain expenses for my daughter to be paid for directly from the trust with the approval of the trustee. Now for the top comments. Did she know about the divorce settlement and that he had changed the policy without you knowing? If she did, then she's a victim of her own doing. I'm not really sure if she didn't know, and still doesn't get it, to be honest. I mean, sucks, but the fact is that her late husband didn't set up his estate correctly or legally. And it sure looks like he tried to skirt around the rules to look good. I married my current blissful more than a decade husband when my now adult son was a child. So, I had to redo all of my life insurance and property beneficiaries and all that stuff when I remarried, and it was a pain in the butt. But then my husband and I had a daughter together, and I had to do it all again, and that was also okay. But I got a lawyer to make sure everything was a-okay and would not be troubled in the end. And it sounds like your ex, the father of your daughter, did not bother. So whatever legal fallout happened, well, it happened and that is best. This, Emma can blame her late husband for the fact that her kids are left with nothing. He cheaped out and knew he wouldn't be around to deal with the repercussions should the policy ever need to be used. Agreed. If he had a wherewithal to add his other 2 children to the policy, he had a wherewithal to increase the policy amount. But if we are being honest, he had full knowledge as to what was the divorce decree, and tried to be slick. My best guess was that he thought he had time left, and by the time it passed, your child and his other children would be grown. And while it may be unfortunate for his other kids, you are well within your right to advocate for your child and enforce the validity of your divorce decree. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex that his children are not my problem? I, 34 female, have a 10-year-old daughter with my ex. We broke up 5 years ago because he got another woman pregnant. He has the weekends with our daughter. Lately, my daughter has been complaining that her dad's stepson is bullying her and her dad isn't doing anything. My ex's stepson is 15 years old, so I was shocked when she told me that he would hit her, kick her, push her down the stairs, and my ex would pretend like he didn't know what's going on. She also said that her half-sister keeps taking her stuff. I called my ex after she told me all this, and he said that it's just kids being kids, and that our daughter should get over it. Also, that his other kids need more attention, so if my daughter can't deal with that, she shouldn't come over to his house. I yelled at him, saying that I didn't care about his other kids' problems. He should stop mistreating our daughter. He then hung up on me, and his wife wrote me a long text saying I'm an a-hole for saying that her kids aren't my problem. So am I the a-hole for saying that about my ex's kids? BS. His kids aren't special need or have any disabilities. Your daughter is 10. If she doesn't want to go to her father's home, please seek full custody. A 15-year-old hurting her isn't okay. Full custody along with complete child support. 15-year-old is old enough to be arrested in my state. My state, you can be charged in juvenile court as young as 10 over the assault, because that is what he is doing, assaulting her. Not the a-hole. Please speak to a lawyer about getting full custody and protecting your daughter from these physically and emotionally abusive a-holes. Yep, OP should factually document as much details as possible. Like October 7, 2023, late afternoon just after arriving from school, daughter said stepson John Doe pushed her downstairs, where she hit her head. Noticeable bruise in back of head. Ex witnessed the incident but said nothing to either daughter nor stepson. Save all texts or emails, and take photos of any injuries. OP should also, with lawyer's advice, look into having a child psychologist speak to the daughter and document her testimony. A text or email where the ex says kids will be kids, and there OP make clear in that same text exchange it's about her child's injury, is going to be clear evidence of his knowledge, if not involvement. Little update. Thank you for all the advice I've been getting. I talked to my daughter about not going to her dad's anymore, and she said that she still wants to see her dad because she loves him, but she feels like he doesn't love her. This upset me, because no 10-year-old should feel that way. I texted my ex saying that if he would like to see her, he should take her away from his house. And if he would rather not see her, I'll take this up to court and file for full custody. He said he didn't care. If I wanted, I could remove his parental rights, that he had his real children with him. I also say that I will be pressing charges on his stepson, and he just ignored that text. So I'm taking him to court. I also sent a screenshot to my friend who's a lawyer. I might get an update once everything is over.
Tomorrow, I'm breaking off my engagement. Plus updates. Original post. Last week, I, 25 male, found out that my fiancé, 24 female, cheated with her boss. I'm not sure of his age, but he's in his mid-40s, I think. I also know he's married and has 3 kids. This happened last November on a work trip while out of town, and they hooked up 3 times. How do I know? Well, her boss's wife messaged me on Facebook and told me. She's also provided me with screenshots of texts and emails between them. Graphic discussions about how they cheated on us. Also, how they got over on us, and joked about it. But then she'll tell him in the same text that she loves me so this can never come out. The boss's wife, who seems very sweet when I met her at company functions before, is understandably enraged and heartbroken, and is having him served with divorce papers tomorrow. She's also going to drop a friendly email to their HR department. So, I'm sitting here on my phone typing this, while fiancé is across from me on the sofa on a computer, planning a honeymoon trip for a wedding she has no idea is never going to happen. She's completely oblivious to the fact that her life is going to fall apart tomorrow. I don't feel any sympathy at all since mine fell apart last week. And every time I read those texts and emails, I feel like someone is sticking a knife in my heart. 3 years down the drain. Though I'm just thankful I found out before we got married. I guess there's that to be thankful for. She has no idea, but I took a vacation day tomorrow. And after she leaves for work, I'm going to go around my place and collect up all her stuff, box it up and have it sitting by the door. Then I have to figure out if I can get any of the money I've already laid out for the wedding back. It was supposed to happen in October, but yeah, that's not happening. And when she comes home, I'm going to throw her out of my apartment and out of my life. I've debated posting all those screenshots on her Facebook page, but my sister talked me out of it. I also debated calling her parents. I feel bad for them as they're such great people, and I'm going to miss her family. They've accepted me as one of their own, and I don't know what they're going to say. But I've decided that she can explain herself to them. I don't want to hear her excuses or her lies. At this point, I just want her out of my life, so I can figure out what the heck I'm going to do with the rest of my life. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. I'm invested now. Let us know how tomorrow goes. I'm sorry this happened to you. Yes, we want to hear an update, OP. But please tell the boss's wife not to call HR until after the divorce is final. If he loses his job, he could try to go after her for alimony, and she does not want that. I would honestly send a quick text to her family, letting them know why you are calling off the engagement. This way, she can't turn it around on you and try to make you out to be the bad guy. Best of luck, OP. Keep us posted. OP needs to hear this advice. It is golden. If they reach out, tell the parents. If they ask for proof, deliver it. Mainly so she doesn't spin it into a whole web of lies of saying it was a misunderstanding. Yes, I'm petty. But if the truth doesn't come out, she might make you seem to be the a-hole of an ex-fiancé who broke up due to a misunderstanding. I am thinking I'm going to have to show her parents what I have, because when she shows up at their house and tells them I broke up with her, they're going to be shocked. I would call them after you get her to leave and let them know what happened, and you have the proof if they're interested. By the time she gets to their house or calls them, they'll already know the story. OP, also be careful when having her leave your apartment. When people feel backed in a corner, they do some crazy things. If you can have someone there with you who can serve as a witness in the event things take a turn for the worst. Ultimately, protect your peace, King. Now for the first update. Wow, I cannot believe the response this post has gotten. I can safely say the bomb is dropped. Around 8 or so, my phone started going nuts. Calls from her with voicemails after each call. I knew right away what's going on. So I immediately called my sister to tell her that it was happening. She told me to stay strong, and if I wanted her to, she would come to my place and sit with me. So she's doing that. Then I had a very difficult phone conversation with my ex's mother. Jesus, I can't believe I have an ex now. Difficult because this woman has done nothing to deserve the pain I could hear in her voice. Her whole family has been nothing but accepting to me since day one. I calmly as I could explained the situation to her mother and told her that I can't find it in myself to forgive this and that I'm going to be asking her to move out. Although she was very upset, her mother seemed to understand why I feel this way. She offered as well to come to my place and help my ex get her things. I think this is a pretty good idea. Then I texted a few of my closest friends about the situation. I have been getting bombed with text from them since, but have said as soon as I can, I will talk to them. But right now, I am completely overwhelmed. I listened to one voicemail from my ex, and it was what I expected. Crying and asking me to call her because we really need to talk. I called her back and she didn't answer, so I started to text when she called me. Immediately, she's telling me how sorry she is. Why did I call her mom? Why did I involve other people? So I lost it. It asked how she thinks I feel having to go get tested for STDs because my fiancé cheated on me. Do you know how embarrassing that is? So at least she didn't deny what she did. I told her she needs to come this afternoon and get her stuff out of my place, and that we are finished. She said we'll talk more later, but I cut her off and said, there's not a whole lot to talk about, is there? I also asked her how her and this guy could talk crap about me and his wife. Like they made fun of her for gaining weight after having 3 kids. This poor woman didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve this. I also said something to her about not trying to say she felt pressured because the guy's her boss. Her texts show clearly that she was a more than willing participant in all this. I guess she's got to meet with HR at work today, and the whole place is gossiping about the two of them. I can't feel sorry for either of them at this point. I'm already emotionally drained. It is not even 10 a.m. where I'm at. So once she's done with her HR meeting, I guess she's going to come here and get her stuff. I'm hoping it goes without much drama. My sister should be here, and I hope her mom comes with her. My landlord also says she'll be around, and she's also going to have my locks changed, hopefully, either this afternoon or tomorrow. I know this is like a long babbling post, but I was trying to remember a lot of things I said, and my mind is raving right now. Sorry this is happening to you, but you are dealing with this trauma like a boss. Long road ahead of you, but you have got this, dude. Go no contact and focus on you. Probably not the best idea to say he's dealing with it like a boss. As someone who went through breaking off an engagement like OP, it hurt at first, but in the long run, it was worth it. Why did I involve other people? Not sure why, but it still stuns me that someone can cheat, utterly betraying their partner, and then essentially ask, why did you keep my complete betrayal of you a secret? You know, after we hung up, it dawned on me that she involved someone else in our relationship, not me. I wish I had thought of that while still speaking to her. I am so sorry you're experiencing this, but you hit the nail on the head. If she brings it up again, smack her with the facts. Best of luck to you always. Man, I wish like hell you were my local friend. I'd come by for support and make sure cooler heads prevailed with all of this. You seem like you're staying strong through this, and you've handled everything to perfection up to this point. Stay strong. Get your emotions out when she's gone. You will need to get your emotions out, or else it'll drive you insane. Don't internalize them. Feel them, either alone or with those you feel comfortable with, like your sister or friends. Just don't give the ex any satisfaction. She deserves none. Once they're out, work on being a better you. Hit the gym, read up on something that'll advance your career or just make you a better person. Spend time with your friends. Whatever your thing is, do it. Pamper yourself in the coming days and weeks. You'll need it to start healing. All the best to you, bro. Second update. Well, she's gone. She did show up with her mom and her best friend in tow, and my sister was there. No screaming, no yelling. She asked if I could just speak to her alone, and I told her that wouldn't be a good idea. I said everything she needed to say. She said it in her text messages with her boyfriend. Of course, the tears started, and her mom said that they'd make this as quick as possible. So her and her friend went and got some of her stuff, enough for a day or two. While she was gone, her mom apologized to me and said she didn't raise her daughter this way. And she asked if the guy is really married, and I said, yeah, he's married. Her mom seems pretty shattered by this whole thing. So as they got ready to leave, I asked, what about my ring, since it doesn't seem to mean all that much to you? Her friend opened her mouth like she was going to say something, and I shot her a look, and she immediately shut her mouth. I wouldn't take any bet in Vegas that her friend didn't know what she did this whole time. She covered her hand like she wasn't going to give me the ring, and her mom said, give him the goddamn ring. So she handed her mom the ring, and her mom gave it to me and again told me how sorry she is. I just dropped it in my coffee table. I don't even want to look at it. I guess she's going to come back for the rest of her stuff tomorrow with her dad. My sister said she'd like to pull the little girl's hair out of her head. Her words, not mine. But right now, I'm so beaten down by all this. I just want to lay down and sleep. She has some nerve to try to keep the ring. Because that makes it real. She could pretend that it was just a bump in the road as long as she had a ring, because if he really wanted to break up, he'd take it back. And he really wanted to break up, so he took it back. The amount of people that cheat and then are shocked their significant other breaks up with them is always surprising to me. My ex-wife got butthurt because I called her garbage after I found out she cheated on me. Some people don't have any shame, it seems. As someone who went through breaking off an engagement from a cheating partner just 2 weeks before the wedding, it hurt like hell at first, but in the long run, it was well worth it. Honestly, I would sleep with the boss's wife. My brother said the same thing. Do you know how things are going at the boss's house? No idea. I'm sure it's not fun there right now. I feel bad for the kids though. Last story. I took revenge on a cheating ex and I went overboard. Plus updates. Original post. So recently, I found out that my ex had a flirtatious relationship at work with one of her managers at a restaurant she works at. This involved dirty talking while on shift, compliments and photo sharing, and plans to hang out. I found out and told her not to text the other guy again and blocked him. Well, something told me to check her phone again, and it didn't take less a full day for her to respond back to his texts on iMessage, thus continuing the contact of cheating on me. What's worst is how she described getting caught by me to be hilarious, funny, and that she'll reach out to this guy when we're done. She made me sound like a doormat, a joke, an option, as if everything we had was a plaything for her to play with. Feeling emasculated, embarrassed, and surprised she could ever talk about me like this to another man, I posted her incriminating screenshots to her social media feeds, Instagram and Snapchat stories since I had access to the accounts, and sent those screenshots to the guy she was cheating on me with, at her boss at work, since she was doing it with another manager at a restaurant. I also sent them to her mother, as she was texting this guy the whole week I was helping her mother move to her new home. The guy responded immediately, and her boss and mother has yet to respond. She later called me back to apologize about the ordeal, but the damage was already done, and I broke the news to her about what I did and to screw her. I think I went overboard, as this is something I've never done. Take revenge on someone by screwing them over. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Well, you didn't release the pictures, so you're in the clear with that one. I've heard a saying once. It went something like, if something can be destroyed by the truth, it wasn't meant to be. If she didn't do anything wrong and you went overboard, she wouldn't be ashamed. Yep. I think this falls in the don't do anything you wouldn't want printed in the newspaper category. While we're taking Radma's advice, don't get tattooed anywhere a judge can see, and spend extra money on the things that go between you and the ground, such as shoes, tires, and your mattress. This is PG compared to the others I've read. Also, I can be petty, and I hate cheaters. So in my opinion, you went easy on her. I hope she loses the job, and if any of those guys are married or have a girlfriend, they get caught also. Better yet, if they do, send a screenshots to them also. My ex was a waitress at a members-only exclusive restaurant in downtown San Diego. Everyone was banging everyone. I think it's pretty common in the restaurant industry. Her coworker told me she was banging one of the servers. I confronted her. She didn't bother with denials or even to downplay it. She said that after work, they all would go downstairs to another bar and unwind and get tipsy. And things just happened. That was 5 years of wasted time. It really did a number on my self-esteem for a minute. Fortunately, I met the love of my life 2 months later, and now we've been married 25 years, with no cheating. There is life and love after this. Be encouraged. I sent them to her mother as well, as I helped her mother move to her new house, all the while she was texting this guy. I wouldn't call this overboard. It was a lot, and many people just say screw it and move on without taking this sort of action. It's all understandable given your outrage at being played, and she deserves whatever comes her way. Now for the updates. I've seen that her boss has looked at the message I sent her of my ex cheating at work on the job with another restaurant manager. The boss hasn't replied yet, but she definitely knows now. Time will tell if she'll continue to be working there. Update 2. Apparently, she still has her job from the restaurant, and she's doing damage control from the social media posts. Update 3. She replied back to me letting me know the developments about what I posted, learning before and that only a person like me would care to see that happen. The conversation turned in a really ugly name-calling match. The damage has already been done. I'm being spiteful and I'm done talking with her. I'm going to desperately seek therapy and work on myself for the better. I didn't expect this to blow up, but I appreciate the advice all around. She never wanted me or deserved it all. Update 4. I contacted the owner and showed him pictures of what happened. He legally said he can't involve 4 situations that happened outside a restaurant, when the screenshots clearly show her and the manager flirting during the workday on the hour. I don't think he really wants to get involved. We live in an at-will employment state, meaning the employer can fire you for any reason other than an illegal one. So as uncomfortable as it is for her, the owner, the GM, the manager she cheated with, unfortunately she'll keep her job, but boy it will be uncomfortable working there. Final update. The guy she managed to cheat on me with is a single father co-parenting his son with another woman. I found out who the woman was and showed her all the screenshots. Unfortunately, she saw them texting each other for well over a year ago, and that she told him to not text her anymore because she doesn't want him hanging out with anyone that doesn't like the mother of their son. My ex-girlfriend knew her and was extremely rude and snobbish with her. They're not together anymore, so she didn't know the exact lengths of their relationship. However, she knew they texted each other a lot. To no surprise, their relationship also ended because he was also cheating on her at the same restaurant with another woman that worked there while their son was extremely young. For all the talk about how my ex-girlfriend didn't want to be a single mother and how she despised her father for cheating on her mother while she was pregnant, she sure loved playing the role as the other woman.